Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Columbus Chamber and Chamber Foundation's Huddle on internships and the power and value of creating a talent pipeline in partnership with our education partners in the region. I'm Kelly Fuller, Director of Workforce Development here at the Columbus Chamber, and personally want to welcome all of you and ask our guests to introduce themselves. We have three subject matter experts in this area coming from Columbus State Community College, a strong partner in our work that we do at the Chamber in workforce. So I'll start with Leslie and then Dave and then Jeremy. If you'd each just take a second and introduce yourself and a little about your role at the college.
Sure. My name is Leslie Melton. I am the Director of Career Services at Columbus State, and there my team works to help prepare students for the world of work. And what that means is getting them ready for job and internship opportunities and working with them to solidify their major and career decisions.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dave Kofer, and I'm a project manager here at Columbus State in the Office of Employer Engagement and Experiential Learning. One of our closest working partners on campus is Leslie's office, the Office of Career Services. We work together on just about everything that we deliver in support of our students and our stakeholders. But in our office, we do a couple different things. We work with organizations and incumbent workers to help upskill and provide, current employees with the skills they need to maintain employment and or pursue new employment with their current employer. We also work with our current students in helping them to connect with real-world workplace-based learning opportunities while still in school. And we do that through a lot of our structured earn and learn programs where students work part-time in industry while continuing their degree program here at Columbus State. Our office, and this is another strong point of collaboration between our office and Career Services, Leslie's office, is what we refer to as just traditional internships. What we're talking about here this afternoon, where students want to get experiences out in the field while in school. It may be an academic internship. It may be an internship just that's about getting experience, but the internships are also managed out of our office, and look forward to chatting with all of you as part of this afternoon's discussion.
And I'm Assistant Professor Jeremy Banta. I teach supply chain management at Columbus State. Our degree program is one of the few that requires an internship. So all of my students have to go through some form of internship. I also wear a couple of different hats because of my work with local industry. I'm in meetings with Dave, I think on a weekly basis, and with somebody in Leslie's office on a weekly basis. Actually, I think I've even been dubbed an honorary career services member. And then I'm also on the board at the Chamber of Commerce and quite active with them and their member companies.
Well, thanks, and welcome to all three of you, and welcome to all of you again. And we encourage active participation. Today's event is really to help you identify some better practices in the internship space and to determine if there's a way that you would like to get involved and provide that pathway to do so. So ask questions along the way, and we'll try to get to those as we can as well. First of all, though, I want to just throw this out to the three of you. One of the things that I've been hearing from members, the last 16 months as I've been meeting with them, mostly virtually and now a little bit of a hybrid, is, they're still wanting to hire, even in this strange kind of, economy and strange space we've been in, hiring is still important. There's such a tight labor market. And there's been more and more and more interest in this whole idea of internships, maybe from organizations that haven't had those programs before. But sometimes there's a misunderstanding about what really is an internship. And I'd like to hear from the three of you, how have internships changed over the last few years, both pre-pandemic and kind of in the space that we're in right now? What are you seeing?
I can take a stab at it.
Thanks, Leslie.
So, as you would imagine, I think seeing more opportunities that are virtual, of course, but for those who haven't had internships, students view internship as their key to career success oftentimes. No longer or gone are the days where an internship is busy work where an internship is, you're sending a student out to run errands and things like that. But it is a valuable experience that really prepares students for the world of work. And that is what they are looking for in their interns. That's where the expectation is for the students. And that's certainly where we hope and see many of our employers have that expectation as well, because the stakes are very high for the students to be able to get these kinds of opportunities. And so, that's a shift from thinking years ago and years past. So you see some, good internships are very structured learning opportunities that tie well to an academic experience. We see a lot more paid internship opportunities as well, because employers and students understand the value that they bring to each other. And so we're seeing that many of these opportunities are paid, and paid very well, depending on the discipline, because of the level of responsibility that is placed on the student. So I'll stop there. Dave, it looked like you wanted to chime in a little bit.
No, all I was going to add, Leslie, is first of all, I agree 100%. And I think part of what you're talking about there, and talk about part of what Kelly alluded to as well, is in this tight labor market, I think employers need interns as much as interns need employers, right? It's always been the case that, students need employers to fulfill their desire to complete an internship. And then with that internship, they're equipped to go do that next thing, right? But in a tight labor market, if employers are waiting to gain access to students until after they've completed their degree program, in many cases, it may be too late, because the labor market is so strong, it is so healthy, that assuming the student is graduating with skills highly employable in that labor market, there's no problem finding a job. So for the employers, it's really shifted. The premium is on early access, right? Getting in front of that student while they're still in school, because it's a trial run for both parties, right? The student is getting familiarity with you as an organization, trying to understand, do I like who you are? Do I like you culturally? Do I like the people I work with? Do I like where the job site is located? Do I like my commute? All these things, which are important factors in deciding choose this job or choose another. But I think that's something for employers to keep in mind, is that particularly in a tight labor market, it puts a real premium on hosting interns. So you have an opportunity to compete and gain early access to those employers. So, Jeremy, other thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah, and that the word internship it's taken on different meanings. I know Dave and I, at least at a minimum, have discussed this with our individual groups. What's a work study? What's an internship? What's an apprenticeship? How do people see those? We have a work study program, and we even wondered if it was not garnering the attention it should, because it was called work study, and should it be apprenticeship? So, think outside the box. It's not just a summer program for a 4-year college student anymore. We have internships where the student already works there, and they do an internship in place at their existing job. We've had volunteer opportunities. I've had projects pop up because of COVID, where somebody needed a whole bunch of data crunched. We've had a third-party logistics provider want to do a whole bunch of documentation of their standard operating procedures, and brought in, probably 10 students just to do that for like 6 weeks. Yeah, so it can kind of look whatever you would like it to. And especially at the community college level, we have the ability to be a lot more flexible, so we can kind of tailor it to meet everybody's needs.
So I want to piggyback on something you just said, Jeremy, because I'm really interested and intrigued by this internship in place with an incumbent worker. Talk a little bit more about that. If I'm a business owner or a leader in a business and I have an incumbent workforce that does have some skill needs and some development, how do I get started with interning in place with my existing workforce?
Well, for my existing students, we have that requirement, and it's there to get them experience and to help them along in their career. But we don't want to hinder them, and we don't want to make them have to quit a job or take on a second job to fulfill that requirement. So what we're able to do is work with their supervisor, their management, and have them take on a side project, maybe do something a little bit different, maybe do job shadowing, anything outside their normal duties for a couple hours a week. We'll consider their internship. And the benefit of that is, how many of your employees have come to you and went, hey, did you know I'm in school studying logistics? It just doesn't necessarily come up all the time. So this is a way to allow them to approach management and say, hey, I've learned a bunch of stuff. I've been in school for the last year, 2 years, 3 years. I'd like to showcase that. Is there a project? And most managers are like, oh, yes, we've wanted to document this or do this project, or, hey, we'll just rotate you through all the different departments so you can learn a little bit, or we'll have you run meetings for the next month. Whatever helps the company and whatever helps the student allows them to do that internship in place.
Very good.
And if I could just add there, because I thought you brought up a really great point, Jeremy. Even with traditional internships, they aren't just summer long. We're seeing a lot more in a big rise in micro internships, which are really just short-term project-based internships. It can be anywhere from, some employers may have a 10-hour internship where they have a need for a student in a particular discipline who can work on a project for 10 hours. Some may have 40 hours or 400 hours, but it's really up to you, the employer, to define what the terms of that internship are and what the learning experience will look like.
That's great. I think that gives a lot of flexibility and potential creativity for that collaboration between the business partner and the college, the university, and the student. And I'm thinking back to my, many of you know, prior to coming to the chamber, I was in the career tech education space for many years. And I think about when I would work with businesses that were getting ready to host high school students, in this case, juniors and seniors. So often the question was like, what do we do? And then Leslie, I know you talked about like having a well-structured internship program, or what are some of the things that a business should be considering when they're thinking about structuring one so that it's beneficial for the business, the student, and the college. It's meeting a requirement.
Yeah, sure. So, many of our students have, for all of their learning experience, something like a syllabus, right? And you should be thinking in those terms and along those lines in terms of structuring an internship program, just putting together an outline of responsibilities, tasks, items, expectations, all of those things that will help guide the student and help them be successful in that opportunity, an agenda or a menu, if you will, whatever you want to call it. That's what the students need to help them be successful. And so that should be part of a comprehensive onboarding process where, as part of the onboarding, you're going through that, for lack of a better term here, syllabus, where you're going through your outline. And these are the expectations. If we say, this is professional dress. Well, what is professional dress in your industry? What does business casual really mean? We say be on time, those kinds of things we may need to outline for the students ahead of time, and all of that in writing, right? Because the syllabus in our world, in the academic world, is really like a contract. It's your contract between you and the student. And so having that well-structured program that outlines timeline and deadlines and activities, and really just understanding what your needs are first, outlining those needs so that then you can relay those to the students as part of your training is going to be really helpful. And I think when we're doing an internship for academic credit, sometimes we see it a little bit outlined a little bit more, but we can certainly help you. So if you're just starting and you don't know, go to your college or university partner, because 9 times out of 10, we've done it before. We've done it with another partner, and we can help you outline exactly what the experience is, even when it comes down to just detailing, what a micro internship would be. So if you say you need someone for social media content creation, let's talk about what that looks like and how we spread that time out over 40 hours or 50 hours or 60 hours. And I'll stop there and let someone else chime in.
It also needs to be flexible, because you may get 3 students with 3 completely different backgrounds. One may have just come out of high school within the last 1.5 to 2 years. One may have been working in another industry for a while and is trying to gain some experience in a new one. So having a nice flexible set of abilities and tasks and functions is always a good thing as well.
Dave, and thank you, Leslie and Jeremy for that. Dave, I wanted to kind of talk about sustainability of this, right? So if I'm, again, from the business perspective, thinking, gosh, I had this great opportunity with the social media campaign, for example, and it was maybe a smaller, micro type of internship, but I really want to continue to do something that's year after year sustainable with my education partner. What are some of the hallmarks and things that I should be doing so that it is sustainable and people know about it and they can support it?
Yeah, internships can be a lot of different things for our students and for our employers. And internships can absolutely be project-based, defined start and end and one time in nature. But that probably doesn't lead to something sustainable long-term, right, Kelly? And so I think it really gets to, because again, not that makes for a bad internship, it's just not one that necessarily has that sustainability. So getting businesses to think about those things that are cyclical and regular to their business cycle, tasks that full-time employees are doing that are essential that they get done, but it's not necessarily required that any one person do it, right? These are critical business tasks. They must get done by somebody. They're always going to be here, or they're seasonal or cyclical in nature. And can you carve those out of the overall capacity plan of your existing FTE? And before you know it, taking 5% here and 10% there from your existing staff, you create kind of a standing FTE that is your just rotating internship role. It's not that simple, but I think it's that thinking that can kind of help inform that. And when you talk to business owners, particularly smaller businesses, are like, I could absolutely create a job of just all the stuff that people have divvied up over time and make that just a standing, rotating internship type of role. I think the other thing is, internship to what end? Is hosting interns about getting work done? Really good reason, right? Or is it about getting work done and developing my talent pipeline? Because when you talk to Leslie or Jeremy or myself, and you're talking about internships, and as part of the narrative, unsolicited, you say, you know what? We're really doing this also to gain early access to talent, because we see ourselves having hiring needs of 2 to 5 entry-level folks every year. We would love to see that happen through intern conversion. That shifts the conversation for us, right? We know that from that expression, you as an employer have a different value proposition around this. This isn't just about what can I get out of a student for 10 weeks, 14 weeks, or some extended period. It's about really setting the pathway to full-time employment. More importantly, a pathway to a career. And so I think that's another mindset that we would want employers to think about, is that sustainable and repeatable, seeing interns constantly flow in and out of your organization is probably going to have a lot to do with your commitment to those interns, both as interns and down the road as potential full-time employees.
Yeah, the task-based or project-based isn't always sustainable, but a leadership training type program is. 4 weeks over 4 different departments. They shadow a manager, pick up individual skills. They may not even actually be doing any definitive work, but just being there and helping and attending meetings and stuff like that is invaluable experience that most people don't get. And while we're all from Columbus State, I'll say having multiple partners is important, because you get different students from different places. We have a very diverse background. It's a lot different than what you will see coming out of Ohio State. And then if you look at somebody like Ohio Dominican, 50% of their students are varsity athletes. So you get an even different type of student from ODU. So multiple partners will give you a lot more options and make your program sustainable as well.
And I've been asking a lot of questions, obviously, as an employee of the Columbus Chamber, about the businesses, about what does the business, get from this. But talk to us more about what the interns or potential interns at Columbus State are looking for. And I know it's a very general, but maybe some of the examples that you could share, Jeremy, maybe from your specific program, Leslie, from the students that you're working with, Dave, just from your observations and the connections you're making with businesses. What are students saying?
Mine's about experience. If they've never, ever worked in logistics or supply chain, just seeing how an inbound operation works or inventory works, is incredibly valuable. You know, running the scanners for a little while, or, you know, doing some package sorting, just something simple, gives them a much greater understanding. And probably one of the most valuable things they can get is that peek behind the curtains to see what actually happens in management and leadership. I mean, they're going to school for a reason. They want to excel and they want to advance, and seeing how management works, and seeing the real deal, is incredibly valuable to them.
Just to piggyback off that, you know, the first thing when I thought about this question was they want a quality experience. They want to be treated as professionals, but also understand that they're a student and they're learning. And our students at Columbus State are 18 years old and just out of college. They are also, in some cases, parents. They also, some of them have bachelor's degrees already, you name it. So we have a diverse set of students. And so our students need that flexibility, like Jeremy was talking about earlier, and just understanding of the diverse needs, but really a quality experience, because like I said before, for many of them, for the majority of them, this is going to get their foot in the door. There's been so much value placed on internship over the last few years. You know, when I first started in career services and would talk to prospective students, you didn't hear prospective students asking about internships. Now it's one of the first things they ask about. What kinds of opportunities are going to be available to me as a student? How are you partnering with employers? These are students and parents who ask those questions. And so they want that quality experience to know that it's going to help propel them in their career.
I agree. Really don't have anything to add, Kelly. I mean, Jeremy and Leslie, you know, hit around the head.
Yeah. One thing I am curious about too, because I think we're all kind of approaching this from our respective businesses and educational institutions, is the continuation of remote work, including remote internships and remote micro internships and project-based internships. What are some of the specifications or some things that businesses should be keeping in mind if they are, you know, having an intern on their team, but maybe they're not in the same space as that person? You know, what are some of the, you know, we all know it can be a challenge, period, but what are some of the things that really need to be in place that make those more successful relationships with an intern?
I think the virtual internship puts a real premium on the planning that Leslie spoke about. Right. I think even more so, right, our ability to interact in person can allow us to be more improvisational, if you will, right? You know, I got a little further ahead on the project than I expected. Let me just walk around the corner and say, hey, what else do you have me to do today? Where, again, so I think it puts a really premium on planning. All of the characteristics and hallmarks that we've talked about so far, apply all of those to the virtual space as well. And then I think probably this added acknowledgement that because this person is probably new to this work, the technical nature of it, but then also maybe new to a professional working environment, kind of doing little spot checks and audits of, are they exhibiting the discipline to the work, right? Because, you know, as I'm sure the managers on the phone have discovered over the last 18 months, if someone's internal discipline is a little lacking in a virtual environment, that's when it could maybe be exposed, right? Because someone's not constantly there checking. So put that into the plan, you know, structured spontaneity, so to speak, right? Where maybe it's on your plan as the manager, but not necessarily the students, that you do a midweek check-in, unexpected, right? Hey, I know we didn't have time scheduled today. I was just checking in. Are you making good progress on this week's deliverables, right? It's the same type of thing you would have done when you come around, put your arm up on the top of the cubicle and say, hey, how's it going? You know, it's how do you replicate that kind of casual in-person interaction in a virtual work setting? And I think we're all still learning. But what I would encourage managers and business owners is that the same learnings that are emerging from manager teams remotely today, make sure you're carrying those forward and incorporating those into your interactions with the interns. You know, don't treat them differently. And then the last thing would be just a heightened degree of intentionality around the coaching, the development, the mentoring, and if possible, if you're bringing your teams together in person, make sure the intern is included there, because I think we all know and can reflect back on our own experiences that it was those social interactions, whether it was the quote unquote classic water cooler conversations or getting together with people after 5, that's also where we learn, right? We learn the hidden rules. We learn the cultural elements of what it means to work in a professional Western culture, right? So just a heightened degree of intentionality, a heightened degree of purpose, and it absolutely underscores the importance of the plan that Leslie spoke to, because the planning in a virtual environment is just going to be so, so key.
I think that was great, Dave. And that was one of the things I thought about with the supervision and mentorship in a virtual environment. You have to be so intentional, but also not forgetting other things like benefits and perks of being with that organization. So making sure we're providing students access to employee resource groups, training and development that's happening, the professional development, because those are things that it can get lost in a virtual environment for students. And those are also the things that make for a quality experience for the student. And those are the things they really remember, that special training they went to on strengths or understanding their leadership or whatever that is. Those are the things that oftentimes stand out for the student and is a perk to their employment there. So being intentional and trying to remember to add those things to the student's experience in a virtual environment.
I guess I would ask this too of any of you. How do you, within my organization, how do I identify what are some of the attributes or skill sets that I should be looking for in a worker that could be a good mentor or a good partner, that not just because this person is the best welder, for example, and they're bringing along a new welder as an intern, but what are some of the other things, the soft skills, how do I get that? How do I identify that person internally, and how do I get them ready and support them to be the mentor to the intern?
Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts on this, but I'm curious, Jeremy, from your perspective, what you've seen work well, what your thoughts are.
The first thing that popped to my head is find a veteran. It just because that's been bred into all of us. And is a big chunk of what we've done in our career. So that's one way. But that, I think we all know the person that's very caring, patient, and that teaches well and walks through things. I think we've all had that employee that was able to, when you as a leader have been trying to explain something and not everybody's getting it, and they chime in and phrase it in a different way, and you're like, oh yeah, that was good. That's the perfect kind of mentor. Someone that is quick to judge and a little easy to fly off the handle, or maybe not quite as patient, or very maybe overly introverted, may not be the best. I could be wrong. I'm kind of that way, but I think I'm a good mentor. But yeah, it's kind of go with your gut. If you think someone's going to be a good mentor, that's probably the best place to start, is with your gut.
Yeah, we know the individuals on our teams, right, that kind of naturally take on the role of coach, right, that are developmentally oriented. I agree with 100% with all the characteristics that Jeremy just outlined. It may not be the administrative supervisor, right? We know sometimes people make their way into administrative supervisor roles for a lot of reasons other than they were the best teacher or coach. And so I think it's the person people naturally flock to when they need answers, the person that people naturally flock to when they're confused about something or not completely understanding, the person who without asking steps in, lends a hand, helps demonstrate the right way to do it. I think then when you find that person, and if you're just in a privileged position where you're just overwhelmed with people that fit those characteristics, then maybe begin to ask yourself, who could this be a good developmental experience for, right? Maybe they are being groomed for a position of leadership, and they're already exhibiting all of the required characteristics, and they just need practice, like right before you make them the team lead formally, before you promote them to supervisor, you really want to see what they do in a formal supervisory capacity. Have them lead the intern. again, that's assuming they already are demonstrating all of those other characteristics. So I don't, Leslie, maybe other thoughts you might have.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. The other thing I would say is just think broadly about mentor. We often tell students as they're graduating, we're going to reach back out to you. You're going to be a mentor. And so a mentor, not necessarily the supervisor, because I believe students, especially interns, need both. They need a supervisor and a mentor at the organization if you have the staffing to provide that. But a mentor can be a younger professional, someone, when a student can identify with someone, if there's some type of an affinity that they can connect with, even if it's, oh, you went to Columbus State, I went to Columbus State. Now we have something in common. And being a little bit of an introvert myself, one-on-one, I might flourish. And so looking at and paying attention to, like, I like the person who has the answers, but it may not be the most outgoing person, but someone has more to contribute, and allowing them that opportunity to contribute to the interns as well.
Thank all three of you for that, because I think that's, one of those benefits that sometimes we don't talk as much about is, developing our own, internal, incumbent workers as we're helping them grow and develop their leadership skills, and, having this opportunity, whether it's as a supervisor or a mentor to an intern that's coming in. Great way to continue to develop our existing teams. I did want to encourage, again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'd be happy to bring those forward to our panel today. I did want to ask, again, just kind of some real specific, I want to connect with Columbus State. I want to develop an intern, bring someone on board. Where do I start? Who do I go to? How do I start that conversation? What does that look like?
So I would say, if you're keen on an internship, then I would say you can definitely always reach out to Career Services. And what we're going to do is we're going to put you in touch with Dave's team because Dave's team technically handles internships and experiential learning at Columbus State. Now, those are usually for academic credit or as part of an Earn and Learn program. We have a job posting site. We use Handshake now. So employers can always post opportunities on Handshake. We will share those opportunities with students. We share with faculty. But again, if it is a specific internship, we're going to reach out to our internship coordinator and Dave's team to see if sometimes you have an internship that's just a micro internship or just a one-time kind of an internship, and we'll get that filled. But if you're really looking to build a pipeline or some sustainability, you'd like to have an intern every semester, that's something where we'd really want you to have a conversation with Dave and his team so that we can talk about how do we make this more sustainable. Rather than just posting on Handshake, which is great to post on Handshake. We have over 21,000 students. And many of our students are using Handshake now, but then those students who are in academic programs or who are seeking out internships specifically will be working with our internship coordinator as well.
Yeah, and so thanks for that, Leslie. That would be the answer I would give as well. It never hurts to start with the Career Services Office because we recognize that, you may have existing relationships with other institutions of higher education. And when all else fails, start with the Office of Career Services. They're going to always get you going in the right direction if they're not the ones to meet your needs directly. And so when you find your way to our office, yes, more structured internships, particularly those that are going to be leveraged for academic credit, are facilitated out of our office through our internship coordinator. And there is then that bigger picture piece around experiential learning and developing longer term kind of programmatic relationships where your relationship with us here at the college and access to students is really about a longer term multi-year commitment. We're continuously sending students to you. You're continuously hiring them. We're seeing high rates of full-time conversion, and we see it really as this developmental talent pipeline. And then I think that, and I'm going to tee up Jeremy here with my next round of comments, I think the other ways where folks in industry to get involved are actually with and through relationships with people like Jeremy Banta, right? We are strengthened. What we do in the classroom, our lab-based experiences, everything experienced on campus is really strengthened with and through relationships with employers and with industry. And I would love for Jeremy to talk a little bit about how, folks from industry can get involved with academic level work and how that can actually lead, maybe less straight line, but can absolutely lead to you building relationships with and connecting with our students, whether it's through advisory groups or other things. So Jeremy?
Yeah, it's like a scripted segue. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, get involved and stay involved. That's the best way. And yeah, Leslie and Dave talked about the whole college side of things, but connecting with individual programs that benefit you or go to your workforce is probably the next step to that. So there's we have a supply chain management advisory board. So we meet at least once a year, and I get input from industry partners on my curriculum. Here's what we've changed. Here's what we want to change. What do you see that's missing? What do you see that's working? Not necessarily from our students, but just in general in the industry. And then having that presence. So coming into class to be a guest speaker, maybe doing on-campus recruiting, maybe even being involved in sponsorships and non-recruiting type things. The more students see your name, the more that's going to register, especially if you're not Amazon. If you're a company that they don't necessarily recognize right away, you're going to get a lot more benefit out of recruiting if you have multiple contacts in multiple ways through the school. We take students on tours. We have guest speakers, all kinds of different ways. And again, like I said before, we're flexible. So if you've got something that you want to try, feel free to reach out to us, and we can try to do something new. I actually host one class per semester at a facility down near Rickenbacker to talk about Lean and Lean Six Sigma and process improvement. And what better way to talk about that than to actually go out on the warehouse floor and see their processes in person? Well, the benefit to that is that company hires probably one student a semester based on that visit. Just because the students are there, they're walking around, they're like, hey, this is kind of cool. Even if they weren't looking for a job, they're like, hey, can we put in an application? It's a really great way to partner and do something that's just kind of out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I love that, closing that gap, between what's happening in education within the school and educational environment with the actual application of in the business itself. I do have a question from one of our attendees. Do you
add to, I was going to say,
no, go ahead, Leslie.
If I could add to that really, really quickly, because I thought those were great points, but if you can encourage your employees to get involved and get involved yourself, because we are involved, right? And we pull from industry, we pull from the legal society when we are connecting students to professionals for informational interviews, for externships, for mentorship. And I haven't calculated numbers yet for this past school year, but before it was something like 45% of our mentors end up hiring a student for an internship or some kind of experience with their company. And so they're making connections with the students through being involved. And we are pulling from industry, right? We are pulling from LinkedIn and those who are attending these professional association meetings and asking them, would they like to partner with us in helping a Columbus State student? And I know other colleges are doing that as well. So that's a great way, having your team out there representing your organization, and then we're able to partner with them and get them connected to students, because word of mouth is going to be with the students, that's going to be your best, as well as faculty. So faculty and word of mouth is going to get the name of your organization out the most with our students.
And thank you for that, Leslie. That is so important. Just that really intentional engagement on a part of the business at multiple levels within the organization, to make sure that this is a good experience for everyone. I did want to have pose a question, if you would share your thoughts about the uniqueness of post-graduation internships as almost a contract to hire sort of arrangement. We have 2 interns this summer who have already graduated. How do we ensure a great experience that prepares them for their first full-time job, whether it's with us or with another company?
Yeah, I want to thank Brad for putting the question in there. I think for both employers and students, post-graduation internships can be a really great thing. You know, we talked earlier about students needing experience. And if they've graduated, whether it be a 2-year or 4-year program, they've got degree in hand, but no relevant experience, they're going to find it pretty difficult in the labor market. They just are, because there's going to be other students they're competing against who have relevant experience. So I think for that employer that decides to bring them on, it's a wonderful opportunity, hopefully both, again, for the employer and the student. And I think, you know, using that language, contract to hire, Brad, really wrestling with, like, is this almost like a contract role where contingent upon very measurable, defined, objective performance toll gates, this is going to lead to full-time employment, right? Because, you know, if you begin the internship journey with thinking, I've got 2 full-time open recs, let me do a little try before I buy, so to speak. And I hate to use that language, but that's kind of what you're doing, right? And, you know, be very upfront about that, you know, I'm signing you on for 6 months. We're going to have very measurable toll gates where we're going to evaluate your performance. And, you know we have openings. We're either going to hire you or somebody else, but we'd really like it to be you. I'd be that intentional. I'd be that explicit about it. If you're not ready to take that level of intentionality on, and it's more about, you know, getting some good work done during the interim and positioning the student for success down the road, I would be intentional about that part of it as well. You know, as business owners and as people in industry, you have contacts, you have networks. You know, program into the plan, you know, every 2 weeks, a networking luncheon, or in the virtual state, a networking introduction that we're going to facilitate virtually. By way of your Rolodex, over 6 months, you could introduce a student to 10, 12, 15 people in your network that you just literally expanded their network that many times over. So I think first, being an employer that's of that mindset that it's not just about us. It's also about the student. And regardless if the student lands with us or not, if their time with us didn't advance them somehow, everybody's time was wasted, right? Because you didn't convert them, so you didn't get them as an employee, and now they're back in the street really no better off than they were 6 months ago. So I think just having that mindset of how do we advance you? And then the last thing I offer is ask them, right? I would oftentimes tell folks in advance of internships, ask the intern at the end of this, as you're doing your evaluation, as you're doing your reflection, what are you hoping to get out of this? What are your measures of success? And then commit to them to say, we're going to weave those in so that when you walk out of here, regardless of what happens with us in the future, when you walk out of here, you can say it was value added and successful for you. But you got to ask them, right? You got to get their input.
Dave, what's a Rolodex?
You know, as soon as I said that, Jeremy was like, old guy alert, you know.
Yeah, I kind of echo that. You know, it definitely find out from them where they think maybe their weak spots are, or, you know, through that continual feedback loop, see if they've got an area that they're not quite getting, or, you know, get into question and answer sessions with them and find out what they want to learn more about. If you have a flexible path with your internship, you know, if someone doesn't understand the finance and accounting side of things, hey, let's take you down there for a week and have you work with that group for a little bit so you can try to figure this out. Or if they end up with an interest, hey, I really like this whole specific process. Maybe they spend more time there. So definitely being flexible for your own benefit and theirs, I think really, really works well. I've seen that in a couple different scenarios. There's a company here that has a leadership program to where their leadership trainees work 3 months in 3 different departments, and they actually get to give you a wish list of where they want to work. It's not guaranteed, but they can pick and choose. And there's a contract with those trainees that they have to find a position within the company within the end of that training period. And if they don't, then they don't work there. So it's on them to secure a position, but it's also upon the company to help build them so that they are a good fit. But you know, I'd say be as flexible and definitely use communication with them to figure out what's going to work best for them.
And if I could just add one more thing, because those are all great, and it's around the same point that Jeremy just made. We see this quite often as rotational programs, rotational leadership development programs, or just called rotational programs, which typically occur after the student has graduated, usually 6 months to a year long. They're going to spend time in every facet of the organization. So they're going to rotate, spend a month or 3 months here in this part and in that part. So they get to learn about the entire organization. And so not knowing, the specific industry, if you can find other models and reach out to your peers who may have some agreements already in place and do it really well. There are people in Columbus who do. I mean, these are hot commodity programs. You have students fighting for these programs where they can get in and learn about every aspect of the organization and then be able to either choose or with the hope of being guaranteed a position when they're done with the rotational program.
Good. What's the best way to connect with you guys? For those that are on the call today that would love to, learn a little bit more about your specific roles and maybe getting involved in hiring interns and participating in tours and things that Jeremy mentioned. What's the best way? Email you guys directly, or how did we do this? Jeremy, there you go. You put it in there already. Thank you, sir.
I was going to say, LinkedIn, email us directly. Kelly, I think you probably have all of our contact information and with plans to distribute that afterwards. I think each of us, Jeremy, is faculty, but it's as much externally facing as any member of our faculty here at the college. Myself and Leslie, very externally facing roles as we, partner with folks in the community. So yeah, just reach out. Love to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat as well.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, we all do a really good job of pointing people in different directions based on their needs. So literally reaching out to any one of the three of us will get you to where you need to go, even if it's not one of the three of us. I would say between all of us, we know just about everybody at the school and can direct you in the right way.
Yeah, I would echo that. Whenever I have a need, I reach out to someone at Columbus State, and I'm always put in connection with the person that can best help resolve my question or issue. I want to thank the three of you for joining us today as our connections and subject matter experts on something so important to our business community and to our community at large, the development of talent and the continuation of good jobs and good career pathways for students wherever they are in their life journey. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation today as well. Join us again for more chamber huddles coming soon. Stay safe and be well. We'll see you all soon.